I love exploring worlds that, you know, we haven't seen for a long time. And the world of Prince of Persia is something very interesting. It goes way back.
What I loved was that it went right the way back to before stories were history. It went to a point where they were myth.
Go with the patrols off to your left. There's one turning and coming back now.
Really, it was about the story and the possibilities for the story. The ability to do a beautiful, epic period piece really pulled us to it.
This is what the building down in Waterford. This is the NASA Arterton.
First of all, the scope of it, the size of it, I just thought, wow, I've never been involved in something that's, you know, like this, and can it be pulled off? Just seemed like a huge challenge.
And then this is actually on the set we're going to go out. We're actually building part of that town.
We are, you know, taking off from what's given to us by the game, and the game creator worked with us for a long time on developing the screenplay, so we're being true to his vision of the game.
Of course, one of my concerns about doing a Prince of Persia movie was that it'd be a good movie. And, you know, there's really no one who makes this kind of movie better than Jerry Bruckheimer.
So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to show you how the taking of the city bursts out of the yard which you have just taken.
We went out to Morocco, and in the first week we just kind of visited some of the sets that have been built. And I mean, they were like cities. That was when I realised, whoa, you know, this is a big deal.
When they look down off the plateau, right, they look down on this city, and this here is that there, all right?
Everywhere our eyes looked, we saw the most exquisitely carved walls, drapes, ramparts, and in Morocco, the nature itself, the camels, the thousands of horse riders, the horses, the dust. It's really uplifting, and it honors our craft to such a degree.
The film takes place in a very distant, far-off land in Morocco, so it has so much beautiful scenery, from mountains to valleys to desert.
And what's wonderful about Morocco is that there are these mind-splitting contrasts between the most extraordinary iridescent green and absolute aridness.
It's a really beautiful country. We'd have our days off, and I would just drive out into the desert, like just drive and drive and drive and drive.
It's quite stunning, and it's not surprising that so many films get to shoot there, because it's very rewarding visually.
And also, I have to say that the local labour here, some of the craftsmanship is fantastic. Some of the plasterers, some of the metal workers who bash out bits of brass and make beautiful patterns. It's fantastic. Some good craftsmen here.
The first day I got here, one of the first things I did is I went out to the warehouse where they're putting together all the props and all the production design. And it's filled floor to ceiling with lamps to swords to all sorts of elaborate weaponry. All of it was made there on the spot by hand by local artisans.
We spent a lot of time on the design of the dagger. It was very important. It's the thing that releases the sands of time. And it had to have the exact qualities for that period and yet be unique and special. So I think we did about 30 different daggers before we settled on the one that we ended up using in the film.
Beautiful job. The props people, the costume people, the set dressers, they all went absolutely mad for how we could make these things both imaginative and so that it would be a good mystical story, and at the same time pay real service to what things actually looked like.
I think the most challenging thing about Prince of Persia has just been the locations we've shot, moving people around, hotels, transportation, logistics, also facing wild animals, vipers, and a few other scorpions, a few other things along the way.
Jeez. What all the guidebooks had said was, this is a marvelous country, splendid place to be. Just don't go in July and August.
And so, of course, there were impossible to break reasons for us to shoot in July and August. So it was very, very hot.
It was over 100 degrees just about every day, and you know, our actors were wearing these heavy costumes, and it was really difficult. We had to keep hydrating them so they wouldn't get sunstroke.
The nature of the landscape, which is why we're here. It is the hidden valley, but it means it's also hidden to try and get the equipment into, and the very narrow paths for one way in, one way out, and that can make it humorous at times or frustrating.
Sometimes in really stark desert, no greenery at all, and the rain would come.
It's gonna rain.
Everybody said, oh, it's never happened like this before. Oh, my grandfather remembers in 1871.
It was tough. I mean, this is the hardest work I've ever done. And rightly so, we're making an action film that has to look absolutely genuine.
I'd never seen so many extras. I mean, it's extraordinary, you know, galloping down the hill with a real army behind me and not 5 guys that they're going to replicate in CGI. And the noise of it, the noise of an army, that's pretty impressive.
Just to see all of the extras. We had African-looking, like kind of tribal, and then we had Chinese, and it was amazing, the costumes and everything.
Penny Rose is our costume designer. She did all 3 of the Pirates of the Caribbean. Penny's an amazing artist. She designs all the costumes, and then she has to make them, which is not an easy task, because we have thousands of costumes.
How many of these damn things are there to do?
She gave me so many choices, and she'd say really wonderful things to me, like, she's like, do you like that ring? And I'd say, darling, do you like that ring? And I'd say, yes, I really like that ring. And she'd say, oh, you don't like it? Well, don't be surprised if it ends up on someone else. And I'd be like, okay. And
This is Jake's armour that he wears in the opening of the film when he's a warrior. Real leather, painstakingly made with all the ingredients and accessories. It was made in Morocco by the wonderful craftsman there. And this one is the plastic replica.
And this coat is, like, you know, made up of 1,000 different pieces of material. And when it was new, it looked gorgeous. Then she took a cheese grater to it in the most vicious way. And what you see is the result of years and years of wear. But it doesn't feel like a costume, it feels like clothes.
This is my princess outfit. This is going to be the Disney shop outfit, I think.
We had extras who were leaning against the walls and dozing. They looked exactly like paintings. They were absolutely exquisite.
Back row!
I never thought ostriches would ever end up in one of my films, but it's a hysterical sequence.
Go!